Although still in the very early stages and it's still kind of developing at the minute, this is going to change in terms of how businesses look at advertising online. So the question for businesses really is this going to create additional opportunities for them, or is it going to compete with other advertising channels that they're maybe already using? Welcome back to the ProfileTree podcast. And in this episode, I'm joined by Pork and Jack from our team, and we're going to discuss a recent update from ChatGPT. So, if you've watched our podcast before, you may have remembered in one of our earlier episodes this year, we discussed how ChatGPT were looking to introduce advertising. They have announced as of 11th of August that they are now introducing these in the UK, along other countries such as Brazil, Mexico, Japan, and South Korea. Now, although still in the very early stages and it's still kind of developing at the minute, this is going to change in terms of how businesses look at advertising online. So the question for businesses really is this going to create additional opportunities for them, or is it going to compete with other advertising channels that they're maybe already using? So I guess, Pork, maybe the first question, I don't know if you've maybe seen one yet, but what do ChatGPT ads look like?
So we can actually put an example up on screen, but just to kind of run through how they look and how they look differently than say what you'd be used to with Google Ads. So if you think of kind of the normal ChatGPT interface, the screen where you'd see your results, the ads will appear below ChatGPT's answer rather than being inserted into the answer itself. So it will be completely separate. They can contain the advertiser's name, headline description, image, and landing page. They're clearly identified as advertising, so you'll see clearly that it's separate from the answers to the question you've actually asked. That is it for now, I suppose, because it still is a beta version. It's hard to know like how this will evolve, but for the moment, there seems to be no kind of correlation between the answer you're given and who's paying for revenue. So it might appear, say, beside relevant searches, so if you're looking for like best lawnmowers or something like that, or some sort of recommendation, it will still give you hopefully unbiased information, but then it will also attach a paid ad to it. So I suppose for consumers and people to be aware that, that last part isn't actually recommended on anything, it's just an associated ad.
Yeah, for sure. Because actually, today I was doing a bit of research on it because that was one kind of thought that I had is in terms of the advertising, is it going to kind of link into your chats and to your information? And I definitely think, that would be obviously a worry for not only say consumers themselves, but just users in general. But from what I looked into it, it's looking like at least OpenAI are saying that, in terms of say like the advertisers that are, creating and promoting those advertisements, that it's not actually going to use say like your individual chat history or if you save memory set up or personal information. I think the way they're looking to do it is kind of correlated with say like maybe the topic that you're researching, and that's how they're connected. But Jack, I was going to ask you just because I know, say, for both of us, we work with a lot of businesses that, maybe say, for example, are just getting started with advertising for, say, like ChatGPT ads. Is there a way that, say, business owners can set up an ads account?
Yeah, so the process is relatively simple, and especially business owners that have dabbled with Meta ads and Google ads should find no hassle whatsoever in the setup process of the ads account. So obviously, whenever your business, you're creating a ChatGPT account for your business, you're also creating an OpenAI account. So what all you'll need is your OpenAI account to set up an OpenAI ads account. This setup process is again relatively similar to something like Google ads or Meta ads. It would involve you filling out some basic business information like your business name, website URL. Then after that, OpenAI then will ask for additional verification. And then from there, you'll just be including in your billing information. And from then on, it's just a case of setting up the campaigns, the ad accounts, and the ads themselves. And again, that shares a great similarity to things like Meta ads and Google ads. However, there are some differences, like building on what Gabby and Padraig said. The main differences will be the targeting. So Google Ads will traditionally get you thinking kind of what keywords will someone be searching for. Meta will have you thinking, what would the person that I'm wanting to see my ad, what would they be interested in? Whereas ChatGPT gets to thinking, what type of conversation would someone be having with an AI model when my business would become relevant? So OpenAI calls these context hints. So for example, if say, for example, you're creating some ads for your SEO company, instead of building an ad group around your SEO agency Belfast, that would be a good keyword for Google Ads. Think more broadly about the conversation itself, like business owners discussing poor Google rankings, declining organic traffic, technical SEO problems, and competitive ranking in your area. That would be more of the context hints you would be giving ChatGPT in this case.
That actually makes a good point because, like, say, like, even we've seen ourselves in terms of like SEO and changing in terms of, say, like, now businesses are looking to appear more in, say, for example, like the Google Gemini summary you now find in Google results, or say on AI platforms like ChatGPT. So I think it even puts a little bit of perspective on how you want to think, say, even with, say, with the advertise on ChatGPT, but even just say in general for businesses, you want to think about those kind of main questions that your, say, target consumers asking, rather than thinking of the kind of individual keywords, like, say, for, like you said, Jack, that you would depend on with Google Ads. And I think that actually leads maybe more so to my next question, because one of the main things that I kind of was thinking about, when the fact that, that they are now being rolled out, even say if they are in the kind of introductory level, in terms of where we think maybe, say, like ChatGPT ads are going to compare to, say, other advertising channels like Google Ads or like social advertising. For, say, like for me, I think where it kind of falls into is that, if you think of Google Ads, that's, there to look for explicit intent, so what someone is actively searching for, whether, say, it's a product or, say, a service. Whereas, say, with social advertising, it is more about the creative element of it, looking at their interest, trying to grasp their attention. And say with like ChatGPT, I think it could probably sit somewhere between the two. So say, like, for example, a user might not put in, say, a specific keyword, say, in their chat, say, prompt, but what they might have is, say, that detailed conversation, which is going to then help compare options, look at different, say, discussing, say, what they should or shouldn't do. So in a way, maybe ChatGPT could potentially see that it's going to give more kind of contextual richness in terms of the intent with that. But I guess, Pork, say, like, for you, just in terms of like the businesses you've worked with, do you find that maybe more businesses would, say, like, even that you've worked with in terms of clients, would potentially look at ChatGPT ads, in terms of advertising?
Yeah, so it's definitely something we've had a lot of clients ask about. Obviously, it's still kind of in the early stages of being rolled out, but we would have had clients obviously asking, just appearing in general, AI search results and everything. So I'd imagine this will be sort of the next big step in clients looking to work and advertise within AI. A lot more, users are obviously moving from the likes of Google and that onto using AI for search, for whether it's, for holidays recommendations or for products comparing and shopping around. um, the benefit of, I suppose, AI or that is it's an opportunity to reaching people, as they explore more options, compare alternatives or weigh trade-offs. It's a lot further down the decision-making funnel than a lot of traditional advertising. So like a Google advertiser might know someone searched for, something like family holiday Spain with the short kind of keywords. Within ChatGPT or any other AI, the system might understand that they're looking for, a 2-week family holiday, traveling with 2 kids and comparing different destinations. So there's a lot more information, I suppose, to get out from that. And probably with that, they can be a lot more targeted than I'd imagine traditional PPC, which can, it is, I suppose, highly targeted within that, but I suppose there's probably more scope for kind of categorization or for targeting, really particular individuals or groups of individuals, rather than kind of like spreading, the spend everywhere. You can really target like who you want as a customer.
Yeah, for sure. And I think as well, because say the ChatGPT ads, obviously, we're maybe what less than a week into the kind of rollout here. Say the fact that it still is in that early stages, it is probably going to be a bit of time before we kind of work out, how successful they are in terms of others. I guess even say with that question, Jack, in terms of the fact that, the ads are still in beta, what you say from what you've looked into, what can we kind of realistically either learn or expect from them?
Yeah, I'd say at this stage, I don't think businesses should be looking into whether ChatGPT ads are better than Google ads or better than Meta ads and the other platforms out there because we simply just don't have enough data yet with it only just coming to the UK market. OpenAI themselves say that there are currently no established performance benchmarks across advertisers, industries, or campaign types. I do think businesses as well should consider that ChatGPT ads may not perform equally as well as they do for other industries. So businesses, I think that would where customers are normally kind of doing a whole lot of research and they're researching extensively before making contact or before making an impulsive purchase. I think that's the businesses that will perform a whole lot better in ChatGPT ads. So just off the top of my head, something like an accountant. So whether someone, a small business owner, comes to ChatGPT and they're asking questions like, do I need an accountant for my limited company? Do I need an accountant for my SME? Whatever it may be, or even builders, I think those businesses will perform a whole lot better and we'll see a whole lot more kind of return on investment with ChatGPT ads than others. So it's just a platform in which is currently really in their very early stages. And I wouldn't be jumping the gun until we find out a good bit more about it.
No, you're definitely right. Because I think I've had a few kind of clients I've already worked with kind of already have started to ask me about, obviously they probably would have heard back in February that ChatGPT was looking to introduce advertising. But I think we're, say, obviously because it's only just launched, they didn't really have the insight to it. But I would agree with you, say, in terms of small businesses, what you want to you say, but obviously because it's in the very early stages, you want to approach it with a bit of caution. It's like you said, we don't have enough data yet. I think another kind of interesting kind of aspect of it is to even say over maybe over time, so say over the next say 6 months as an example, how we as online users will actually interact with the ads on ChatGPT. Because even say a question to put out to you both, because I know myself when it comes to say for example like social media advertising, at times if I see an ad come up, it's hit and miss whether or not I interact with it. Say maybe a question and you can both obviously take a turn with it, but say for like for you, if you saw an ad on ChatGPT, do you think you would maybe initially interact with it, or do you think you would have a bit of hesitation there?
I suppose it probably would depend on the case and the ad. Like from my personal point of view, if I'm using ChatGPT or Claude or anything for an answer, I would, you know, lean towards the actual answer that's presented to me rather than scrolling to the end to click on an ad that I know is, targeted at me, as opposed to what I would assume the actual answer, whatever I'm given, is more, genuine to what I need. So potentially, that's again because it's been tested in beta, is that something they might do that, you're presented with the ad first? Because I think a lot of people's natural reaction is to, avoid the ad because they're trying to sell you something or push you something, go for the actual thing. So having it at the bottom of the page kind of separate leads, kind of almost not working in their favor. I think as well, I mean, it's probably the same on like any platform or anything. Like there's very little privacy, but there's probably more sense of privacy with ads, say on Google, or like probably less so on social media. But when I see an ad presented to me, if I'm looking again, like cheap holidays in Spain or something like a lawnmower or furniture or something, and I see an ad recommending like a travel agents or a particular shop, in my head I wouldn't kind of relate that to a lack of privacy, because that's kind of my intent. But I
Yeah.
think psychologically people would think, if ChatGPT is presenting you with an ad, has that been pulled from like all the information I've been given? Is it just it probably is exactly the same thing data wise, but it personally feels like a little bit less private. I think OpenAI have released that people have asked, are advertisers reading my ChatGPT conversations? Because again, I feel like that would be kind of quite private thing for some people. OpenAI have said no. Conversations remain private from advertisers. OpenAI also says ad matching can consider the current conversation. So it wouldn't look through all your historical conversations to try and target specific ads at you. Where ad personalization is enabled, selected signals from the user's wider ChatGPT experience are used. So it does sound, for at the moment anyway, there is privacy controls in it. But like anything, it's kind of a weekend. This could kind of evolve depending, their goal above anything will be to make revenue. So the more people clicking on ads and engaging with ads will obviously be the goal.
And Jack, what about you? Do you think you would interact with, say, an ad you saw on ChatGPT?
It just depend on the use case. Like, say, for example, I'm using it quite recently at the moment just to try and plan a holiday and get holiday ideas. So if, say, for example, I was to come across an ad that would fit the destination and where I was planning to go, and I would sure give it a go. But again, it just depends on if they get the targeting correct. And again, it will be a lot, especially for smaller businesses, it will be a lot getting used to because they are used to operating through Google Ads and Meta Ads. And just with that different kind of targeting aspect, I can see, especially in the recent kind of weeks or months of it being introduced, that I will be getting a lot of ads that maybe aren't related to what I am currently looking for. So I will see how it gets on, but I can't see myself. I think I'm the opposite of Padraig. I probably would be clicking on them, see what's on offer.
No, I think even for myself, I think I sometimes I am a little bit hesitant with ads, but I am curious to see, just in terms of obviously, like we've kind of Porky mentioned and we've kind of discussed, in terms of how OpenAI has said, obviously it's not going to relate to your personal information in your chat history, but just to even see how that intent kind of works across the board. And just even obviously because we've discussed that it still is in, those very early kind of beta stages, say like even for any kind of businesses watching this episode that are maybe interested in it, what I would kind of like recommend is maybe hold off, say maybe at least until it's out of the beta mode. Because say, for example, things like knowing what the delivery and say the measuring kind of the outcome of those ads and the optimization, all those features are still kind of evolving at the minute, but it could definitely be, a good option for businesses in the future.
I think, but potentially, I suppose, Gabby, you would probably know better than me. For somebody doing the likes of Google Ads or PPC, there's probably really strict best practices. You have like the limited descriptions, there's set characters, preparing
Yeah.
everything. They're probably very almost like rigid rules that you would do for best practices for traditional PPC, especially say for Google search results. Like, there's very narrow character limits and everything. I think potentially those rules could be like thrown out or completely changed for the way AI ads will be displayed, like what's like best practices, what's, will it be more visual than, like say Google PPC ads are obviously very text based. And Google PPC ads, are mixed in with the search results. It is slightly harder, if you were to quickly glance to spot the difference between like the website above it or below it, which one's an ad, the way they present it. But with AI ads at the moment, like it sounds like, there's a clear separation. So like, will it go down the route of like integrating them more?
Yeah, for sure. And I think what also might be interesting is seeing how kind of like the established advertising channels said, you said, Park, like Google ads or even say social advertising, like Jack, you probably even know yourself, they've already began already incorporating a lot of like AI features and tools within them. What I'd be curious to see is, say, for example, if ChatGPT ads are really successful, does that then impact how they deliver ads or how they kind of allow you to kind of set them up? Are they going to take a leaf out of their book and and apply that to their own marketing when it comes to obviously advertising?
I suppose one question I probably have for you guys that you're doing, mentoring and stuff with clients, since Google has already started to integrate AI results and that with their existing search results, have you seen any impacts potentially from paid ad side on that already, the changes to best practice or anything?
Yeah, well, I guess like say for me, so say like Google Ads, and Jack, you'll know this yourself as well. Google has brought in a couple of different AI tools. Like say for example, they have a tool called AI Max, which is pretty much Google saying allow the AI to take control of your ad and it'll create the campaign for you. For me, in terms of my own best practices, I generally don't recommend to go with that AI option just because I've seen, say, like Google ad experts talk about it before, in that you don't want to fully kind of hand over the full control of your campaign to Google, say like AI tools, because then you have less control, less kind of observation of it. But they do have like AI tools, like say for example, that can help generate your descriptions and your headlines, which would be more one that I would recommend to use, because it's almost that the AI is supporting you and creating it for you, but at the same time you have that ability to go back through it afterwards and change anything. So it's more so that the AI, rather than taking control, you're getting it to help support you to either create a more effective campaign, or say if you're doing Google Ads maybe for the first few times, to help you get a bit more comfortable in terms of setting them up. Well, I think it's going to be interesting to see how ChatGPT ads kind of evolve, say, especially probably over the next coming weeks as, they really kind of push it out of the beta mode. But I guess it'll be a wait and see, and we'll probably have a future episode where we're going to discuss the best ways to use ChatGPT ads. But thank you both very much for your time in this week's episode. If you enjoy the content and would like to follow on for more episodes, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and let us know in the comments what topics you'd like to see from us in the future.